Yeah? Oh. One sec. 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 looks like James has chosen to play as white. So we're gonna load in the spectator code. And it looks like it's UARKW. Spectate. And here we go. All right, beautiful. So James is white on top, and we're gonna pull up the board here, and we're gonna do a simultaneous analysis board on the right. Of course, the competitors do not have access to this during the game, so we're getting a bit of special extra help here because we're really trying to figure out, whether the people are playing the best they could be playing. Oh, looks like my OBS thing is a bit too small. All right, how's this? All right, wonderful. So this is, as everyone knows, the classical opening. There's plenty of responses. Usually we see this basic construction. And the thing that really matters right now is whether Jonathan goes for d5 or e5, if that's what you're going for. Because d5, there's basically no other way out for white other than just pushing the f4 bishop. But e5, on the other hand, offers a much more diverse playing style where, there's many other things that white can do that you might not necessarily see in a d5 game, because a d5 game just almost always leads to the standard 2 bishops, 2 pawns setup that we've seen in almost every single gravity chess so much. Wow! A crazy theoretical novelty. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this in a tournament game, let alone of a game of this caliber. Oh man, we are completely in new theory. If James does something basic like f4, right? Is there some sort of what can this knight do? What can this knight do? I think, it's really not clear what this knight does to me right now. But when you have people competing at such a high caliber, it really could be anything. So I guess we're gonna have to wait to see James's opening. I guess one sort of danger that you have to watch out for is dropping this queen here, right? Because then, you have the classic example where if black does nothing, that right here is a mate for white with the queen drop on top of the bishop. So it looks like James did indeed choose to go with the classic continuation. And yeah, it will be quite dangerous for Jonathan, I think, with that queen stack, because there's no clear pawn, right? If the d5 pawn was out here, right, then putting the queen here would be silly, because then, boom, and this is trapped, right? The bishop isn't done for, but it's basically done for, right? Since there's no pawn out here yet, this is a lot more dangerous. So, for instance, suppose Jonathan were to, play e6, then it could be baiting James into moving the queen down, right? But yeah, then this pawn move just isn't enough. It's not enough to do a counterattack, which really allows James to develop his side. But looks like that is not what James went for. It looks like I'm very bad at predicting moves. Looks like James went for developing his knight side. So actually, I played James earlier during the day, and I must say that James has some good theory developed on the right side. It's often these B and C pawns right here, which are very, very aggressive for James. You can often push them down here and wreak havoc, which forces you to, maybe give up on a bishop advancement because your bishop has to defend against a pawn that's basically pinning one of the black bishops. black bishops being a very powerful tool of attack, especially from the sides. So I think we're really going to have to watch the B and C file pawns from James, because anything really could happen here. This is just too intense of a game for James to not really be thinking through his pawns. All right, so it looks like Jonathan did knight f6. This is tough. I think Michelle could play a4 here and even get away with it and have lots of pawns attacking. I do not think this is what James is going to do. Perhaps, yeah, I don't know. I'm out of ideas. We really need a second person to help me analyze here, because I know I'm missing obvious things. When world ranked numbers 1 and 7 are playing, it's very easy to miss things like that. And I think after the next recomputation, Jonathan's going to be ranked number 2, so it's really the world number 1 and 2 who are playing. Very surprising that Jonathan isn't pushing the pawns, because if one of these pawns was pushed enough that would be out of the way by now, Jonathan could be opening up his queen to the e-file attack, because James knows this, and so that's why he can afford to be so vulnerable with his king. Right now, imagine if the black e-pawn wasn't there. Then Jonathan would simply play queen to e7. That would force James to move his king to f2. Right, once it's f2, the queen can try to take the f4 pawn and just basically drop the king at any cost at that point is basically worth it. But the fact that all of Jonathan's pawns are so close to the start here, and they almost block Jonathan's own pieces from really threatening the pawns under the king. So James actually has a lot of latitude in how many pieces he can develop right now, because as long as these pawns are here, he doesn't really need to worry about having the slot he can move his king. This queen development is not forced. That being said, the queen development feels like it could be a totally valid move. But like something like that perhaps. But it's not a forced development. If he could focus more on developments like this, which well, that's not a good move, but something to really build his pawn structure here. So even a4 is a fine move, because once again, this is not a real response while the e pawn is here. There's no money in it. So I think I'm just gonna wait a bit for now to really see what happens here. I guess while we're on a break, we'll take a moment to thank our sponsors, CavendishLabs.org. You should apply for their research fellowship. You can spend a few gorgeous weeks in Vermont studying AI safety, biorisk, build diagnostics, basically do whatever you want as long as it's existential risk related in this beautiful, beautiful area of Vermont, Cavendish, Vermont, the heart of Windsor County. So highly recommend it. Go to CavendishLabs.org/fellowship. I'll have the link in my description. So they're the ones that are currently sponsoring the chair that I'm sitting on. So great people. Everything is amazing about Cavendish. So thank you so much. Please check them out. We're gonna go right back into our analysis, where still nothing has changed. I think I'm gonna join the call and see if there's any information happening that I'm missing out on.
Very true. Maybe I shouldn't be giving.
Okay, so we do indeed see that the c5 move is what ended up happening. So yeah, James is developing his pawns and his piece on the right side. I think this is indeed James's strength. There's no very obvious counter. Yeah, there's no obvious counter that I see happening quite at the moment. It's just a very dangerous pawn. It would behoove Jonathan to get rid of it. And yet, like maybe this, but this just like isn't a great development. If I were Jonathan, I would be very scared of this exact move. Perhaps he could almost do something like d5, right, which threatens this bishop. So either the bishop goes here, in which case, it's a positive trade, I would say, or it threatens, or it, like almost you could say baits on passant, in which case you could take this. I don't think Jonathan would go for the trade because that sort of develops this rook, but crucially it at least opens up this file. So there's no longer an easy place for white to develop the queen, and this sort of puts the white king in a much more stressful position. So I actually think that d5 is a solid move here. Definitely something that's worth considering. There's no really big-brained move that James has to counter as far as I can see. But we'll see what ends up happening.
Well, I also haven't been playing at all.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm terrible. Yeah. So we're both terrible.
Yeah, very interesting. Both players are claiming that they are terrible in spite of practicing. Actually, I have a bit of an exclusive scoop here because I played James Lynn earlier today, lost him quite badly. So James, in fact, has been practicing. So it must be a psychological bluff. But we're gonna see what happens here. Alright, I'm gonna sign into the chat because I'm getting lots of questions about the stream, so I'll answer some of those. Logical bluff. Okay. Alright, so it looks like a5 was indeed the move played. Oh, very interesting. So this still threatens James's pawn structure. I think this is globally the correct thing to do. I guess the idea being that if James, does something that Jonathan doesn't really like, say, does some development, or whatever, does a random move, then there's always this move. That move's not great, right? Like, this pawn doesn't really keep going because then James just always has this response, which attacks and moves his pieces forward. So what this really does is really just defends against this, which I don't think is even really at risk of happening. So I don't actually really see that this move is that strong. Like, perhaps after all these pawns are gone, this is a good perch for this bishop. You can see this bishop going to a3, landing here and attacking the queen, but like this is not going to clear out before the queen moves somewhere else. So I don't really see many good ideas. I think black is just playing very, very defensively, where basically none of the black pieces are out. So, you know, the queen's in his home position, the two bishops are in their home position. But we have just had a very, very interesting move from James, where he took this pawn. Now, Jonathan's asking, why wouldn't I just capture this knight? So let's see, but, well, if Jonathan captures this knight, I think James just gets a very threatening pawn right here, which Jonathan can do nothing about. Like, this knight is now trapped completely. Well, not completely. It's relatively no, yeah, this is not the position that Jonathan wants. So, as I said earlier, you know, to really pay attention to these two white pawns, because they are the thing that James really uses to put pressure on the black pieces. So let's see what Jonathan ended up doing. C takes b6. Okay, so it looks like he went for it. Looks like he took the knight. Taking the knight might have, you know, you can't really not take the knight. Like, I almost would have said that taking the pawn would have been better. But then, you know, you do lose the rook. Losing the rook as white is not something you want to do, because that allows for lots of drops from the right. Like, you know, after this c6 knight is gone, James's next move is just like queen to a7. So yeah, no, I think this is basically almost a forced move in a way. So yeah, Jonathan's gonna have to be playing very carefully here. I do think that a takes b6 is probably the move for James, because that traps this knight, and just in general makes it a very uncomfortable position. There's like really, you know, all of these pieces are basically trapped. The rook is trapped. This bishop is trapped for a while because it has nowhere to move. Oh yeah, that's what he did. Okay. I'm getting a bit better at predicting moves now. I'll give myself that. I think Jonathan might like have something here with this, because like takes promotes is losing. So it's, yeah, like essentially, you know, any random move is better than that, because then at least this is defended. So yeah, so Jonathan really has a lot of mistakes to make here. So I think he really needs to think about this move. So right now, as you can see, Jonathan's at 23 minutes, James is at 30. So James has been using more time. And I think this is really the move where Jonathan needs to sit back and, like, you know, he's not up on time, but I think this is the move to really think about, because there's just so many potential mistakes to be made here that, you know, any really wrong move here is almost game losing. Moving the knight here is actually not too bad of a move, I think, because, you know, if the knight's lost, that sort of diffuses the whole pawn situation here, right? There's going to be some mess with, like, but there's no obvious queen attack, like nothing like that, and that makes him lose one of the pawns. Leaving the knight here is actually fine. Just like doing a random move is fine if it indeed ends up going for the trade. there's no forks to even be talked about because Jonathan's king is so secure. So in retrospect, I think this like very defensive strategy by Jonathan might actually be paying off by, if none of these pawns were here, James would have had some terrifying checks, such as like queen b5 or something, right? If like a bunch of the stuff wasn't here, which really, really would have, I think, ruined a lot of things. Oh, so it looks like he did do the d5 move, just not at the point when we anticipated. So, okay, why is this not en passant? Why is this not the move? Okay, you lose a pawn. Oh, I guess this does simplify the situation if he goes for en passant. And this pawn is kind of stuck here, and I don't think James really benefits from that trade. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, looks like that is the defense against the en passant. Wait. No, it's not. Yeah, if there's en passant, can't actually do this because then this queen is trapped. Queen is trapped, and in fact, that's mate. So in fact, en passant might very, very much be the move here. So, okay, this is quite complex, so let's look at a bit more options. So let's have this. This is really scary. And you wanna know why this is scary? Yeah, sure, like the queen can move here. But then there's this check, which is mate. That is mate, ladies and gentlemen. That is also mate. I think en passant is the scariest thing that James can do right now. Right, moving this knight loses the queen. Taking this leads to this situation, which loses the queen. Because the only move that doesn't lose the queen leads to a nasty checkmate. Okay. What else? What else does Jonathan have? Like defending with a bishop, perhaps? Loses the queen. Defending with a knight. That's actually a solid move. But that loses the queen once again. I think en passant is game over. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see how this is not winning. Let's just explore a few more moves. Okay. There's this response. We already talked about this response. This response doesn't work because of this queen's trapped. That's it. That's all he has. This, boom, leads to a queen trap. This, boom, queen trap. Any of these three moves, boom, lead to a queen trap. That's legal. This, boom, this queen is trapped. What else? What else is there? What else is there? This loses the queen. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, like this is game over. Well, okay, this is not game over. Like, Jonathan has a way forward here if he sacks his queen, but I don't even know what he can do to come back from a queen sack. These pawns, you know, we have the recording. I did mention at the beginning that these pawns would be what James is going to use to put pressure on. And these pawns are what James is using to put pressure on the black queen. And I think it's over for the black queen. I may be missing something, Send me something in the chat if you think I am missing something. But I think this game is over. I don't quite feel confident calling this game for white because perhaps black has some counter after the queen is lost. Yep, all of a sudden happened. Alright, that's it. We're done. Ladies and gentlemen, we're shutting down the stream. Well, unless something crazy happens, I'm gonna be back after I get some water. But I think that this is it. You just witnessed some brilliant playing with by white. This is honestly, this is James's bread and butter. Like the excellent pawn developments. You know, not even a single queen move. This is just pawns. This is like the purest form I've ever seen of James's pawn strategy. This is truly, I wouldn't call this a game of the century because there's not, it's not as like two-sided as you would hope. This is like a textbook example of the strength of the white pawns, even against a heavily fortified, heavily defended black game. So yeah, I think that this game is over. I might be mistaken. We will be back in a bit after I get some water to determine if Jonathan can claw his way out of the ground. Oh, moves happened. Bishop takes d6. That's what he played. And yep, he did the move. This is alright. I guess this is interesting. I guess we'll actually see what Jonathan's response is now, but I will get some water and we will be back in about 2 minutes. Thank you to our sponsors once again. Alright, we're back. Let's see what happened while we were gone. And indeed, we got the expected move here. Bishop takes c6. But then we got bishop takes c6, which is a check. Alright, so he's cleaning up. Promotion to queen. Yeah. This is a tough situation. But on the other hand, this might not be as over as I had previously said, because in fact, somehow, James is left with no pieces. Huh. So he's developing his queen, which is obviously scary. But black still has a bishop. Ooh, this is actually going to be a nice long game. I was indeed quite mistaken about this game being over. This game is... This game is definitely not over yet. And I think realistically it's going to happen, you know. If Black does bad moves, we're going to see something like that. But, you know, even with something like this, it's like there are counters, right? Like that takes a while to set up, and the presence of both black rooks is indeed quite valuable, I would say, in this position. I mean, my money is still very much on white in this situation. But like it is not infeasible for black to be able to construct some counter. I guess there's this threat. Very unclear what James would do here, actually. Oh, I guess this locks down, like, all of Jonathan's pieces. Right, there's, like... not even, though. It kind of does lock down all Jonathan's pieces if this happens. Yeah, so... Okay, looks like he went for the knight threat. Very interesting. I mean, James has plenty of counters, including the most obvious one. Yep, alright, because, yeah. Then dropping a rook to b8 is the end. It's still quite hard to tell if black can draw this out into an endgame. Black's quite a bit down on time too at this point, by 30%. So it might be tough for black to even win that sort of endgame. I don't see it. I don't see a way forward for black. Like, how do you prevent that? Oh, well, this is actually fine for black. So is black fine, or is black not fine? What's the new threat? I mean, the threat's gonna be like some slow white development, I think. Something like this. That would open up this move. This is all slow. I think that this black might indeed have a way of dragging this out and allowing white to make plenty of mistakes. Okay, let's find out what the pro gamer move is. Very interesting. This is not something that James expected. How is it going to stop broadly the knight development? You know, like this is not the position Jonathan wants to be in. Really. Maybe it's fine. Why doesn't Jonathan play this game? Does it's not basically? Yeah, it doesn't. So it looks like white is indeed going with a slow advance on the heavy artillery. Yeah, that looks inevitable. There is enough heavy artillery to go around. I wonder why rook c4 wasn't played. Right? The threat model being that. It's a scary threat model. Oh, but it doesn't win. It doesn't win. Wow. Alright. Yeah, so I guess the second rook is pretty strategically necessary. Okay, preventing the rook drop. This is globally, I think, a great move for black. Well, I'd say actually locally, it's a great move for black. Overall, all things considered, I think it's a good move for black. But part of that is because I don't see many other better moves for black. Like, really, black has pawns. Black has that bishop that has nowhere to move, pretty much. And black has that rook that also has nowhere to move. So really, all of the drama is really going to be in a combination of pushing the pawns and carefully moving around the pieces in a way that prevents nasty rook drops from white. I don't think we can play this game forever. I think that if white develops the knight, it's eventually going to be over. But I think black is succeeding quite well into drawing this out into a pretty long endgame. If only black wasn't, 11 minutes down on time, this might have been something potentially useful. But, as the more mistakes you get your opponent to make, the better is what I would say. Okay, so the rook to c4 drop did indeed happen. Pushing e5 is like losing, because it like opens up this. Alright, so James is saying that he's a bit concerned about this. This is indeed slightly concerning because before, black's bishop was trapped to basically this 3x3 square. This does open up a nice long diagonal, which really lets the white bishop move around. For instance, if this pawn is pushed and this rook is moved, right, you have some checks there, which before used to be unspeakable love for black, because realistically, right, the bishop is the only thing black has for checks in the next 20 moves, unless there's some crazy promotion or some pawn stuff here. But realistically, a pawn check would just lead to the white king moving on top of the pawn, even if that happened. So I don't see that being scary. Like the bishop check threat is really the only threat. Everything else is just like a slow out of game. Yeah, once again, I don't really see how black can win this long term because none of these pawns are really passed. There's no check opportunities besides the bishop, but the bishop is like pretty easily neutralized, right? Because the bishop can only really check from on top of a pawn, but a pawn can be pushed to block it, right? There's a, imagine a bishop on h4, right? Then like g3 is a move, the bishop falls. White can have a pawn at f5 by that point. It's tough. It's tough. I don't really see a way forward for black at this point. Yep, so it looks like white made the bishop move heavily unpalatable. You can see that's a mate. And it looks like we have had a very, very interesting move. Sounds like James has this planned out. Alright, this is a faster mate than anything I could have found. I am some very impressive playing. So yeah, truly some very, very impressive playing. We have, this is like, once again, a textbook example of why the B and C pawns are just so powerful when James is playing white. And yeah, that was a nice, clean checkmate, faster than anything I could have seen. Amazing, and we will be back here next time for the next game of the semifinals. Alright, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, what an incredible game. Alright, thank you, and everyone, have a nice day, have a nice night, and God bless America, and may God protect our troops.